I think that there's a gap in the banking market for somebody to come in with a new Irish bank, potentially some form of a community type of bank involving small business people throughout the country, and to get going again to do an Anglo-Irish bank again, except this time run ethically and correctly, and start taking on the main banks. And I think that other people will see other gaps in the market, and we see those things happening. But I want to come back to one point, because it is a related point, which Bobby was saying, and it's this whole question of leases and land. Look, one of the problems we're in, the mess we're in, is because of development land costs, which is what Rip Off Republic was, that television programme was about, that fed through to all of our costs. I remember looking at a small business venture. They wanted to open up a little coffee shop in Blackrock, and I calculated they need to sell coffee at around €8.50 a cup in order to meet the leasing costs.
Eddie, there are 4 Blackrocks in Ireland.
Yeah, Blackrock in
Dublin. One in Louth, one in Cork, but you're Cork in Dublin.
In Dublin. And I'm just using that as an example. So if you are, and I've been saying this to small business people for quite a while, if you're under pressure with your lease, just be prepared to walk away from it, because there's a lot of landlords throughout the country. They can't afford to take the legal action to start chasing people through for defaulted leases over the years ahead. And be prepared to be tough about it and look for a reduction in your leasing costs. And if necessary, just throw back the keys and set up in a cheaper location down the road. I mean, they're the type of things that need to be done in order to shake up the hangover that somehow we're going to go back to where we were, that somehow property prices are going to go back up to where they were in 2007. It's not going to happen for at least 10 years. And we need to get beyond that. And that's what I worry about. But the psychology is that somehow we're going to go back to where we were with just a little bit less wealth. And that's not the case.
Just on that point of leases, Patricia, and negotiating them, throwing back the keys is one thing, but usually you might have put in, you've fitted the place out, probably cost you 30,000 or something. It's not cost-free to move, and you've got your brand there, and your customers know that's where you are. So the landlord has that over you in a way. I mean, every side knows that. But is there anything which the Small Firms Association can do collectively? Because a group of people going to the same landlord, I mean, would you know, well, you know from the signage over the door, the different people who are in one particular building, but do you do representation for your members on this issue?
As far as I'm concerned, it's simply not possible. It is a legally binding contract with the individual company, so it's different to taking on government about a change in law. But I think it's also, notwithstanding what Eddie and Bobby have said, I actually don't believe it's possible for your normal small company. Like, I mean, you have the power in terms of you're actually, even you've got a lot of small operations, you're actually quite a serious big player. And similarly, when Ivy Yates talks about this, it's the same thing. But for the normal, typical small business, this is an absolute bind. And unless you can actually work pragmatically with your landlord, it's full of risks in terms of what's going to come back at you. Just on the other...
But if the landlord knows that if you go bust, he can't leverage the rent from you.
Yeah, no, and that's the argument that people are using. But of course, there's many of the bigger retailers, for example, would also be landlords. So it's not in their interest.
Yeah, but Power Job has shifted around. It's now a tenants market because of all of the hangover in retail space. How many people here, out of curiosity, have actually gone to their landlords looking for rent or lease reductions? Okay, thanks. And how many people here have considered it but haven't actually done it yet?
And how many people got them out of those who went?
Okay, so about 50% of those who went got some reduction.
Just on that,
yes.
Come in there.
Yes.
I have about 32 leases across Dublin. Excuse me. And I got success with about 30%. I got something off about 40%. And about 30% told me to go away, and that's using polite language. But can I say that the ones who told me to go away were all institutional landlords who don't really care if the premises is vacant or otherwise. All they care about is the share value, the yield, and they are not interested in me as a tenant. And I can tell you this for a fact, that these institutions will let places close and sit and watch an empty building because they can't negotiate on the rent. And that's a fact that happens out there.
And why are they that myopic about it?
Well, I don't know if it appears to me that it's, and Eddie may support this, because it's about the shareholder of these institutions, and it's not about how much rent is coming in. That's what it's about, and that's my view. I don't know if Eddie would support that.
Yeah, if the property is held by a fund, which is typically the case, the last thing they want is a reduction on the rents, and to have to mark down the price of the property, because then you have to go to all of the investors and you have to tell them that the fund that they had invested in is now worth half of what it was, and the banks are putting us under pressure on finance, etc., and you've got a disaster on your hands. So
it's easier for them to tell that this guy has gone bust.
Yeah, exactly.
Blame him, yeah.
Jerry, could I make one point? Over the last 10 years, we as a company have 4 health clubs. I personally shot down 15 other opportunities over the last 10 years because the lease was to the price per square metre was too expensive. So
when you say shut down, you looked at them and what people came to you?
When these developers came to me and said, we have this and it's going to be X euro per square metre. And my competitors went in there. Now, I think to their power they went in there. I think, listening to Bobby, where he's saying, you know, he opened up 15 and there's 5 of them. My point is, as a businessman, if you do your sums right, and Eddie was making the point where he done the sums in Blackrock, and you have to sell coffee at €8 a cup. So surely the decision there as a businessman to say, no, it doesn't work. I, as a businessman, could have 15 more health clubs in this country, but I would be in serious financial difficulty if I had taken them. So my attitude was, look, even if we're going to remain small, we will wait until the price is right. I can say with confidence now that we'll open 5 clubs next year and they'll be at the prices per square metre that we want. We went through 10 years of patience, and I think a lot of people over this last 10 years grew businesses and never thought about profit. And they grew business because bankers would give them the money to pay these exorbitant rent prices, and now the thing has changed. But the basic flaw was that the businessman wasn't acting as a businessman. He didn't do his sums right.
Minister, on the question of rent reviews in law only going in one direction, surely that was an error in drafting, and what has been done about it?
I think it should be reviewed. I think I should qualify what I said earlier on. Graham is right. Rather than going in the door and asking how should we sell today, it should be, did we make a profit out of what we sold today to pay people's wages and keep going? Can I just go back to the original question though, because the question was who will lead us out of this, or who will spearhead this transformation if we agree that that is the opportunity we have now? And I think that is the key question. I think firstly what will work well in this country is in the sense if it's collective, if there's only collective consciousness, okay, we're kicking ourselves for the last year, but now it's time to get on and actually get out of the situation, and that means everyone will lead it, I think, or will need to lead it. I think we will need to lead it in the political system, and I think that's possible. I mean, we're rightly angry with our political system for having made mistakes, it having given tax breaks to property, it having spent money unwisely, it having not seen, not protected us, not actually made sure that the banks were regulated in a way that didn't allow them to do the crazy lending that they did. So the political system has let us down, we have, but I think it's possible to redeem this situation, and I think actually a democratically elected government is still, and a parliament which actually allows people to question and to criticise and to suggest different ways, is the way of doing it. And our political system has made mistakes, but I think our political system can help us lead this country out of the situation we're in.